Hello, welcome back to today's coverage of the International Cannabis Business Conference here in Berlin. This is the UN edition from the panel titled Industry versus Regulators, which does sound like a wrestling match. I'm Lex Pelger, I do Can Education for CV Sciences, the makers of Plus CBD. So the panel started with talking about the international level and the UN and the Single Convention on Narcotics, which is an agreement that was signed many decades ago that rules what drugs are considered illegal, what's a narcotic, what can and can't be moved in between countries. And they were saying this is the single biggest impediment to cannabis being a regular legal commodity that gets traded around the world. And I was surprised to learn at the very end that there are only two countries that are keeping cannabis in the single convention, and basically it is China and Russia. If it wasn't for them, that would probably be removed at the international level. But the thing about the UN is they don't have any sticks to make these countries comply. Canada went legal, nobody screwed with them. They sent them letters. And same thing with Uruguay. Nobody screwed with Uruguay over going legal. It just didn't matter. But the EU does have sticks, and they can be quite harsh economic sanctions that can be put on a country for violating something. And so when Germany went to the EU and said, we would like to legalize cannabis, they said, no, if you do that, we will see you in court. We will take you into the EU Court of Justice and sue you to stop this from happening. And so that is why Germany pulled back and didn't go with a full regulated legal market where companies come in. They now have this social club model, which is still a vast improvement, and hats off to the German system. But it's interesting that the UN is toothless while the EU is quite toothy, if you will. It was also interesting to see all the knowledge on that stage about working with regulators in all of these different emerging markets. And Lisa Haig of the Netherlands said something interesting. Some regulators say, sue us, please sue us. We can't change this law, we can't change what's written here. You have to use the courts to change what the law is. We can't do it. We enforce the laws and write regulations and make them more clear. We don't write the laws. And I think that is a fascinating part about how all of this works. Finally, we heard something really fascinating from Aya Farouz, who's now headquartered in Thailand, and she said that Thailand did what no other country will ever do again. They simply said, sure, everybody do whatever you want. And now there are thousands of dispensaries, there was no regulation, and famously this year, Thailand is pulling back and saying no more recreational cannabis. And I thought that meant that was going to be a big hamper on the market, and she said no. Of everyone she knows, they're still working as hard as ever, they're still expanding their facilities. Just because the government said stop doing it, people aren't stopping doing it. There's too much revenue there, and perhaps the government doesn't really want it to change. But as far as she sees, Thailand is still roaring ahead, whatever it is the government's saying.